And now let's talk about the class hierarchy of the exceptions. And as we know that all of the classes, if they are not inherited from any other class, they all these type of classes are inherited from the class name object. So here the throwable is a class that is the superclass of all the exceptions and errors. So from the throwables there are two classes at right, exceptions classes and the error classes. So errors are those errors that cannot be handled. For example, the virtual machine error, and for example the out of memory error, for example IO error. So there are errors that cannot be handled by any programming language, and this is where we call it error that we cannot handle. Second thing come here, the exceptions. So here the exceptions are the abnormal condition that can be handled, and these comes in two flavor. The first one is the checked exceptions and second one is the unchecked exceptions. So what is the checked exceptions? Means that can be checked at the compile time. So when you compile your application or your code, that time it will check. Let's take an example here. Let's say the syntactical errors. So it will automatically handle at the compile time. Next comes the unchecked one. So unchecked exceptions are those exceptions that can be handled at the runtime. That is, let's say we can say an example of divide by zero. That is arithmetic exceptions. It is an example of unchecked exception because we didn't know what type of input that user is going to make when we divide for a certain number by 0. It may put 1, it may put 2, or it may put 0. So we need to handle these kind of error at the runtimes. And once again, the second one is the virtual machine errors and the assertion error that cannot be handled. Now here, as we know, the throwable is the superclass from where the exceptions and errors are derived. And in the exception we have a checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. So in the unchecked exceptions examples are arithmetic, null pointer exception. That means you are trying to create an object, access a method from an object that you have the object constructor you haven't called and the memory is not assigned. Second one comes the index out of bound exceptions. For example, you're trying to insert insert a item in an array where the length of the array exceed. And same thing with the string index out of bound. Lot of examples here. Checked one is the IO exceptions, SQL exceptions, and class not found exceptions. So there are many more examples. It's just a common sense that you can use if something that can be taken as a compile time, that is syntactical error, okay, that is the IO exceptions, that is the mail form URL exceptions. These type of exceptions are the checked one. Unchecked one, that cannot be checked because there is no certainty what user is going to make an input. That is an example of unchecked exceptions. So we will talk about the try and catch, and we will try to handle some more error by using the try and catch. We will try to talk about try, catch, and finally block also. We will also talk about the try and the ladder of catches. So let's do in the next chapters.